On a beautiful day in solo leveling, we watch as Jin Woo realizes he probably should dress nice if he's going to meet his sister's teachers, so thus begins the birth of Sung Drip Woo as he gets his undercut hairstyle and starts rolling up his sleeves. This causes everyone's heads to turn inside the school. However, after a meeting of the principal, Jin learns that there's actually a student who's trying to quit because she recently awakened her abilities, so they want him to go talk to her. This is exactly what happens as Jin finds a girl and realizes she's the same one that's been going along with them to dungeons as part of his mission to start his own guild. And when he approaches her, Han Song seems to be really confused, but after getting a bit of a lecture from him, ultimately Jin Woo decides that he's actually going to help her out since he relates to how she feels as a fellow E-rank hunter. So for the first time, Jin Woo is taking on his very own student, and as a way of helping her improve, he takes her to a nearby dungeon. But at that moment, there was no way for Jin Woo to know the danger that he was putting this girl in, as everything begins to go wrong. Jin Woo calls up White Tiger Guild and joins a C-rank dungeon with them since they tend to test their new recruits on weaker hunters in dungeons like this, and he wants to learn how to better teach Han Song. The problem is that as Sung Jin Woo and the large attack force enter the gate, something is wrong, because as soon as Jin Woo passes through, the entire gate shifts from his usual blue color and becomes a blood red, as red electricity flies off of it, and Jin Woo is barely able to scream for the outside hunters to call for backup immediately. On the outside, they know exactly what a red gate means, so Mr. Sang Min calls the only person who could possibly handle this situation, the leader of the White Tiger Guild, Mr. Baek Yoon Ho, the White Tiger himself. The issue is that at the same time that this S-rank hunter is heading there to save Jin Woo, over at the airport we see as Hwang's brother also arrives in Korea, and his purpose is to hurt Jin Woo. So be ready for a really interesting arc where things all start to come together, but thankfully by this point Jin Woo already has his powers, so let's see what he's facing in this new mysterious dungeon. Typically red gates only appear inside of higher rank gates, and usually inside you can expect at least B rank difficulty. However, it's also possible for there to be an A rank or even an S rank red gate dungeon. Now, as we've touched on a bit, the worst part of these dungeons is the fact that once the gate turns red, the participants are stuck inside and actually can't leave in any way until they slay the boss, and this completely disrupts the usual methods that guilds use to clear dungeons, especially because this lock goes both ways, with no one from the outside being able to enter the dungeon either. This means anyone sent into a red gate dungeon that's stronger than what they were prepared for is typically assumed dead. However, when Jin Woo gets sent into a red gate dungeon with an entire group of mostly newer or weaker hunters, it's going to take a lot of work and patience to survive for days or even weeks while he figures out how to find the boss. Did I mention 1 day inside the dungeon equals only 1 hour outside? So yeah, they're gonna be in there for a while. Jin Woo and a bunch of White Tiger Guild members are trapped inside what has to be at least an A-rank dungeon as everyone freaks out, but in the chaos, Jin Woo stands next to his student Han Song, who he got wrapped up into this mess, when suddenly 2 icy arrows come flying out of nowhere, and he manages to catch one with his bare hands, protecting a student who almost got her head taken off, while another hunter is hit right in the head as everyone watches his head freeze as he's instantly taken out. That's when, scanning the environment, Jin Woo notices them, the ice elves, standing in the trees with their bows and arrows at the ready and glowing blue eyes through the darkness. These kinds of elves are different from the elegant ones you've heard about in fantasy, and they're actually much more bloodthirsty, evil, and based in nature, so they're typically referred to as Hyaki. And this tribe of Hyaki is going to be extremely problematic, as they basically have as long as they want to hunt down Jin Woo and everyone else while a new dungeon begins. A-class tank Kim Chul takes the lead and tells everyone that he's going to split off and form an attack force so they can go and find the boss, since they won't be able to leave unless they die or defeat it. Now, this A-rank hunter is really brave, as he offers to do it all alone if no one is sure enough to stand by his side, forming a group of 6 of their best fighters and healers while he pushes away anyone lower than B rank, telling them they'd never survive out there in the cold and stressing how it could even be months before they make any progress, so he'd rather not bring dead weight around, telling everyone else their best bet is to build a camp and try to survive until they're back. Now, as Kim Chul starts to head out on his very own dangerous adventure, one of the women on his team tells him that she's going to switch teams and actually stay with the larger group, and as she does, she walks right up to Sung Jin Woo, since when they first entered the dungeon, he proved that he was capable by noticing the arrows from the ice elves, so she's hoping she'd made the right choice. As Hunter Kim Chul is off fighting against ice bears and fighting for his life, we see as Jin Woo and the others calmly walk through the forest looking for a place to make camp. However, he's warned to choose a different area because it's obvious that he's choosing the spot where there are the most ice bears. Jin responds that ice bears are easier to deal with than ice elves, and they'll keep all of the other predators away, but it's at that moment that he realizes that the girl that he's with is cold, so he goes into his inventory and throws a coat her way before pulling out a bunch of these and handing them out to everyone in camp, keeping them all warm and impressing them with what they call spatial magic. Jin Woo makes an agreement that he'll protect everyone here and guarantee their survival for the price of them not asking him anything about how he does what he does, and keeping their mouths shut about him when they leave. At that moment, Jin Woo is attacked by an ice bear, and in front of everyone he takes it out with a single punch to the head, as everyone cooks the bear up and has a nice and comfy meal, but they're not out of the danger yet, as Jin Woo's shadows begin to stir. After getting his part of the camp completely comfy and set up for survival during the Red Gate dungeon, Jin Woo goes off on his own to complete his daily quest since everyone here will die if he gets sent into a penalty dungeon. However, when that's done, he goes out for some hunting to lower the population of ice bears near the camp, and when he does for the very first time, Jin Woo summons his shadow army, which is the smallest that it'll ever be, but it's still impressive as he's surrounded by his shadowy minions, and in front of all of them we see his first boss summon, Igris. Jin Woo says go, as a war between the bears and his army breaks out. We watch as soldiers start going flying all over the place, however they quickly reform since Jin Woo's army is constantly healed through his mana pool. This becomes an issue though when the leader of the bears appears, as we see a giant ice bear with an X scar on its chest, and Jin Woo sends Igris after it since it's clearly stronger than everything else he has. Igris lunges forward with its massive greatsword like a badass, flying up its body and slicing the tendons in all of its arms and legs, leaving the bear practically helpless. However, what happens next is truly interesting. Igris easily picks this thing apart, causing it to roar in frustration, but when it does, Igris lops its head off, taking the opportunity to bring this fight to a close. This makes Jin Woo excited because he says he wouldn't have stood a chance against Igris if he used his sword back when they fought, but this makes him wonder if right now, Igris is even stronger than he is, as the shadowy Artorias bows before him with the head of the bear it just slayed. Now the great thing is that since this was the strongest out of all the ice bears in the entire dungeon, Jin Woo puts his hands on it and says the magic words, "Arise," causing a giant blue shadowy cloud to reach from out of the bear's body and become a giant black and blue flaming beast of a bear, as Jin Woo names his newest summon Tank and takes the time to collect the shadows of the other ice bears, giving Jin Woo an entirely new monster type in his collection and giving him a massive shield of a beast to go with his terrifying sword of a knight. As Sung Jin Woo was adding new members to his shadow army by fighting a horde of ice bears, we see that outside of the Red Gate things aren't going very well, as the leader of the White Tiger Guild and the leader of the Scavengers Guild are about to get into a fight due to a massive disagreement regarding our main character. As things get serious, Big Yoonho transforms his hands into claws and lets his energy surge, while Hwang makes a really powerful fist, and the two swing at each other ready to clash and blow everything in the area away, because that's typically what happens when two S-rank hunters fight. We see as their attacks cause a massive shockwave nearby, blowing everyone away. However, as the smoke clears, Hwang says not too shabby, as he realizes that his attack actually never reached the White Tiger Guild master, since in the last moment, Woo Jin Chul arrived and caught both of their hands, which utterly shocks him since he's just an A rank, but Woo explains this by saying that they both held back at the end once they noticed him, which is truly what saved him. Hwang tells him that hunting Jin Woo is just an excuse for him to kill another human being, but since he's bored now, he leaves, as outside things get calm, but inside everything has gotten far more dangerous. While Jin Woo is taking down the leader of the Ice Bears to keep his group safe and add to his shadow army, A-rank tank hunter Kim Chul is experiencing hell as he stumbles upon a group of ice orcs, and their battle leaves him with his armor nearly completely broken and all of his men being torn apart by this group. As he hears the screams around him of his men being eaten, he stands there ignoring their cries because he's thinking about how badly he failed and how this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't so hungry. At that moment, while he's spacing out, his second in command loses his head when the ice elves finally reach the battlefield and start using their bows. However, as he runs away, hopefully trying to get back to camp, he witnesses a large ice elf riding on an all-white horse, but this won't be the last unbelievable thing he'll see today, as Kim is completely confused when he arrives to camp expecting them all to be dead and sees everyone wearing coats and enjoying food. Kim Chul heads back to camp and screams at everyone else for hiding food and supplies, and he even threatens the whole camp into telling him what's going on. But Jin Woo smacks him in the back of the head, telling him that he left them all to die and came back with dead weight, as it's revealed that the ice elves followed Kim back and they've been hiding their presence this entire time. Now in this moment, Jin Woo spots an elf riding on a horse and he can instantly tell that he's the boss of this dungeon they're in, but what he doesn't expect is to have a conversation, as this elf says that Jin is the only useful one among the trash, but he's surprised when Jin answers since somehow they're speaking the same language. The king of the ice elves points out one of his strongest supporters, saying this is the elf who told me one of you might be strong after you caught one of his arrows. However, before he's even able to finish his sentence, the head of the elf he's speaking about disappears as they turn around and spot Jin Woo with his dagger out, saying anything else, and a new battle begins. The leader approaches Jin Woo and calls him an amusing guy after witnessing him speed blitz one of his generals in an instant. Trying to get this over with, Jin attacks the elf on the horse but gets parried really easily, thinking to himself that this isn't going to be easy. The boss gets off his horse and tells Jin Woo that they hear voices in their head that order them to kill humans, but there's no voice telling them to end Jin Woo, so he isn't one of them and can just walk away. As Jin Woo tries to ask this elf more information, he glitches out and repeats the deal again. However, when Jin Woo declines, he wonders how Jin Woo could possibly win since they're outnumbered, and this makes Jin Woo laugh as his shadow army starts to crawl out of the ground amongst the camp, and a war between the ice elves and Jin's army breaks out. This is when Jin realizes he needs another powerful shadow if he plans on winning this fight, fight as the king of the elves introduces himself as Baruka, and this battle continues. When Jin Woo starts to do battle with Baruka from the Ice Elf tribe, he realizes that he's not going to be able to do this with just the shadows that he has, and he actually needs to up the quality a bit. So he looks over towards the body of A-rank hunter Kim Chul, who he just knocked out, and tries to make his way over towards it. However, the Ice Elf general attacks him using his own icy copy of Jin Woo's daggers to mimic how the human fights. In a flash, one of Jin Woo's shadow mages casts a giant fireball that lands on the elf and buys Jin a little time. But as the elf rushes towards Jin and tries to kill him, behind him, Kim wakes up and tries to do the same, causing Igris to defend Jin Woo and pierce Kim right through the torso, killing him. At this moment, he says the word "arise." And from Kim Chul's body comes a massive armored knight with a shield and a warhammer who Jin Woo names Iron, as twice in the same dungeon he grows his army, and this battle continues. Iron uses his Shout of Provocation ability to take the Ice Elf King's attention away from Jin Woo and forcing the boss to go after him instead, as Jin Woo and Igris join in as well, actually causing Baruka to struggle as he dodges a swing of Igris' sword, but ends up getting caught by Jin Woo's dagger, which activates his bleed and paralyzed conditions. However, in that instant, he lunges back and the effects quickly wear off, as Jin Woo thinks to himself that even though Baruka is outnumbered, he still avoided having his vitals injured. Baruka dashes towards Jin at full speed, since he's the only one left in his army, and says all of Jin's minions will vanish if he's defeated. But here's where we see Jin Woo using his head as he throws his dagger towards the Ice Elf and uses his commander's touch ability to push the dagger through the air even faster with telekinesis, so hard that it completely shatters Baruka's dagger. At that exact moment, Iron grabs him up and snatches him into the air, while all of Jin Woo's remaining mages cast fire spells on him and burn him to a crisp. At this moment, Baruka breaks free from Iron's grip and screams that he's gonna kill everyone in this dungeon, before feeling a dagger inside of his torso as he realizes that Jin Woo was invisible and grabs him by the arm, telling him he isn't done yet, as Jin says, "Nah, this is over," and Iron comes hammering down with a massive strike from his warhammer that nearly flattens the Ice Elf until Jin Woo gets confirmation that he's defeated the boss through his gamer system and levels up a few times as well. Jin feels relieved that he actually made it through this one since it was a close call. The funny thing is that Iron hits Baruka again with his hammer, causing Jin Woo to say Kim Chul is even stupid as a shadow and actually telling him to cut it out, while Igris turns to Iron and walks away in disappointment, but two other shadow soldiers hooray for the Iron Giant. It's here where the return gate opens and everyone prepares to head back home, celebrating that they can finally leave, but Jin Woo still has some business to take care of as he walks up to Baruka and says the magic words, "arise." However, he instantly fails to catch Baruka's shadow and make him a minion. This happens 2 more times as for the first time in the story, Jin Woo fails to capture a boss and make them his own, which really pisses him off just in time for a confrontation with the S ranks waiting for him outside.